Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar, or good morning, sorry, and welcome to this webinar from the Business and Local Government Data Research Centre. I'm really excited to have Isha Mishra on the call today to present some fascinating work, and I'm sure you'll really enjoy it. It's Mind the Gap, the Skills Gap in the Labour Market. For those of you who haven't attended the webinar before, I just wanted to run through the usual agenda. So Isha will be presenting for 30 minutes and then you'll have an opportunity at the end to ask any questions. So please do submit your questions in the question box, which should be on your screen, usually to the right hand side. So I'll pass you straight over to Isha so we can get on with what I'm sure will be a great talk. So thanks ever so much, Isha, for coming today. I'm just going to hand over the screen to you, ready for you to start your call, start your talk.
Thank you, Laura. Hi, good morning and welcome to everyone present for this webinar on skills gap in the labour market. I'll briefly introduce myself. I'm Isha Mishra and I'm a PhD student at the University of Essex, and my current research focuses on skill gaps in the labour market. Just a quick briefing of what my research is about. So I'm studying the emergence and persistence of skills gap in the labour market. It focuses on the economic factors behind the skills gap, and I have constructed econometric models to study the same, highlighting the origins of gaps in either different sectors or different regions of the labour market. So the main focus would be on the UK and Essex. I've been funded by the ESRC and Essex County Council, and as such, I'll be studying Essex labour market in a great detail. So what I want to talk about is a general overview of what is meant by skills gap. Why is it important to highlight skills gap in addition to other macroeconomic indicators used in the labour market, such as unemployment rate or vacancy ratios? And I'll also be talking about some of the measures the local councils and the government use to combat skills gap. During this, I'll be on and off discussing my research and some of the results from my research as we go along. Okay. Okay, it seems I'm unable to move the slides. Just a second. I'm unable to move the slides. Okay, so I think I'll have to provide them from my end. So it will be a second. Okay. Okay. Can I ask if the slides are visible? Okay.
Yes, Isha, they are visible.
Okay, so let's. Okay, sorry about that. So let's start about talking what is meant by skills gap. For this, I will first define what is skill. So in the labor market, skills are defined as the qualification, training, or experience required to take up a role. So qualifications or training or experience, previous experience signals the employers the skills you have. And that is what is defined as having skills in the labor market. Skills gap, on the other hand, is when the employer's skills need does not match the employee's skill set. Okay. So difference between the skill set an employer wants to hire and the skills which a prospective employee holds. So there can be different kinds of skills gap in the market. One is horizontal skills gap and another one is a vertical skills gap. I'll explain what I mean by them. So for example, an economist teaching high school economics, where we see there's a right type of skill, but the level of skill is different. This is called a vertical skill gap. Or for example, a construction worker doing the job of an architect, which is not skilled enough, defines a vertical skill gap. Horizontal skill gap, on the other hand, is when the worker does have the right, when the worker does not have the right type of skills, but the same level of skill. So the qualification level is same, but type of skill is not right. For example, an English teacher substituting for a science class, so where the level or the qualification or the experience required might be the same, but it's not in the right category, and hence it might impact the productivity of the worker itself. So another thing I want to highlight is skills gap sometimes can be mistaken for skill shortages. Shortage and skill gaps are different in the sense that shortages can be periodic, and skills gap or mismatch in general exists in the labor force at all times, and can impact can impact the market through longer periods of time. Okay, so a lot of people ask, so why not hire someone with a matching skill set? Skills gap is a widespread shortage in basic skills of future employees. It's a systematic shortfall in skills across entire age cohorts of the population. And there's a lot of arguments about why this happens. One of them is attributed to poor skills of school leavers, that there is a general education failure, or there's a failure of the education system to provide the basic skill set to the future workforce. Another argument in labor market economics is a mismatch between the between the educational institutions and the industry. So the industry and the educational institutions are not aligned with regards to the skills that are expected out of future workforce or future employees, and as such, the gap in the market keeps increasing. Another major issue, which in my research, am focusing upon is technological progress. So there is consistent technological progress in a given labor market or an economy, and which requires an ever-changing skill set. So this can create a delay between the skills that are demanded and the skills that are supplied. And again, there are a lot of papers that talk about technological progress, and there are two sides of how they impact the labor market. But this is something that I will be looking in my paper and see how, not regarding if technological progress requires a higher set of skills or a lower set of skills, just that it requires a changing skill set. I'll be looking at that. Okay, so let's talk about now potential sources of skills gap. Okay. So there are a number of reasons why skills gap exists in the labor market or in a given region. One of them is the supply of workers doesn't adjust to changes in the demand of skills. This comes from the argument that the education system has failed to provide new skills to the young workforce, or there is unavailability of training opportunities for the desired skilled, and as such it takes time, or there is the supply of workers are not adjusting to the changing demand for skills. Another is the demand for workers doesn't adjust to available supply. So the argument here is that workers have the ability to utilize the skills of the existing workforce, but if they fail to do so, the demand is not adjusting to available supply, and as such creating a mismatch or a gap in the economy. The next one is which is also studied in my model, is the expected wages of the workers and firms do not adjust. So when this happens, there's a differential in the wages, which leads the workers to sell their skills to the highest bidder, or the firm paying the highest level of wages. This can lead to lower suitability of workers for the desired job role, and leading to lower employee retention rates and lower productivity in firms. Another one is wages do not adjust to reflect the shortage of workers. When this happens, it results in an absence of incentive to learn the required skills, and hence lower the skills gap. In my study, I've been studying the growth sectors within Essex. So one of the growth sectors, care sector, during my research around the potential sources of skills gap, care sector seems to have skills gap because of wages not reflecting the shortage of workers. The wages in the sector remain low, although the demand for these workers are high, given the aging population of the region and of UK in general, and also skills gap. And also this happens due to other various factors such as funding issues. But when we can pinpoint the exact source of skills gap, it helps us to develop policy options accordingly, because different sectors might face different challenges, and different countries or different regions in general might face different labor market challenges. And when we know more about the sources, potential origins of these skills gap, it makes it easy to address them and build policy options around them. Okay. Okay. We can talk about now the skills gap and the impact on the economy. Okay. So the question sometimes asked is, if unemployment rates stay low, why should we worry about skills gap? What skills gap actually do to harm the economy if we have lower unemployment rates? So I'll elaborate a bit on this. So this is the chart taken from ONS data, Office of National Statistics, and it shows the number of vacancies and the number of unemployed people. So as of March 2017, that's the latest data I had, it stands at 2 people per vacancy, and it's also at an all-time low for the UK economy. So this chart is for the UK and not for Essex in general. So although this depicts a very good picture of the labor market, what we fail to see is the skill mismatch within the economy. Another survey which addresses the skills gap is the Employer Skill Survey. The last one was in 2015, and it's a survey which asks employer intensive questions about their workforce. And 5% of the UK workforce, which was around 1.4 million workers at the time, were reported as underskilled for their job role. Another 7%, that is 2 million workers, were being underutilized in both skills and qualifications, which means they were either overqualified or had a much higher experience than what is required for the job role. So around 14% of UK employers reported skills gap, which doesn't sound high, but out of them, 66% stated that that skills gap actually negatively impacted their organization. This is again taken from the ESS 2015. These surveys were conducted by UKCES. Okay, so here it shows some of the impacts of skills gap on the firm. So all these surveys are oriented towards employers demanding set of skills. Okay, some of them says increased workload on other staff, higher operating costs, difficulty meeting quality standards, difficulty introducing new working practices, lose business or orders to competitors, delay developing new products or services, or outsource work, and some of them reported as having no impact. So, given these set of answers received from the employers, we can see the prevalence of skill gaps prevents establishment from maximizing their potential by resulting a drop in efficiency, as due to either increased workload or mainly due to increased workload on other staff, drop in productivity and output, and also drop in the ability to expand and explore new markets, which we can see here, as they have difficulties introducing new practices or lose business or even delay new products and services. Firms as such can face losses due to unfilled vacancies or hire somebody with lower set of skill sets, thus impacting productivity of the firm. So firm productivity and profit are hit because of skills gap. On the other hand, for a worker, skills gap affects the employee in the sense that they might face prolonged periods of unemployment because of their skill sets not being in demand, or because of lower wages or loss of wages during the period of unemployment. And as such, the income and utility of the worker is impacted. Thus, on the overall, the economy's social welfare can suffer because of existing skills gap, and it has been studied and viewed during the time of economic recessions. This can have a severe effect on the labor market productivity and output. Okay, so now I'll just quickly talk about some of the measures that have been introduced by the government or the local council. So as of Essex, it has been reported that there was a high youth, despite of high youth unemployment, many key sectors were experiencing skill shortages and difficulties in recruiting. And thus, there is a greater need for understanding the cause of these skill gaps. And one of the measures is to actually understand the skill gap in the labor market to address them. And this has been done by the councils through creating employment boards, which is a group of people from academic institutions and the major employers within the region, and discuss the existing skills gap in different sectors and how they can be combated. Another one is studying future skills need. This is helpful. So there's also a new study, if anybody is interested, on the Essex Skills Board website, studying the future skills need. So this is important to identify what kind of skills would be required in the near future or a medium-term range, so that the supply of workers there can be measures taken to adjust the supply of workers, either through enhancing those kind of training opportunities or through introducing some changes at the school level curriculum. There's a study which points out what current skill needs are lacking in the employees and what future skill needs will be demanded. It's an extensive study, and it also includes the soft skills that are lacking in the existing population, the existing workforce. So there's also another study by the local council, another report that they publish, which highlights the major challenges in different labor market sectors. And this is, again, as I said before, is important because different labor markets in different regions can have different challenges. And based on these, it is important to draft policy decisions. Also, there can be a difference between labor market of because a UK economy is a mix of metropolitan and rural areas. There is a disparity between these two type of regions, and regions face different labor market challenges. Therefore, this kind of therefore highlighting the major challenges in different sectors at a regional level and with the use of local data can help address the problem at a more deeper level, which is being done through a report called Evidence Base, which is a clear picture of the employment and skills landscape in Essex. It is available for anybody who wants to take a look at the Essex Skills Board website again. It basically shows the kind of skills that are required in different sectors and given different occupations based on SOC codes. It also has different district sectors and labor market, different sector profiles within the region. I'll put a link in if somebody is interested to see that. So these are another measure that is very famous with government is apprenticeships. So apprenticeships are a way of boosting employment numbers and also addressing skills gaps, specifically the soft skills gap that exists within the young workforce or the school leavers, because these kind of skills are not let's say specifically taught in school but are required for doing a job role, for any job role, and this kind of apprenticeships help address skills gap in those areas. So these are some of the measures that the local council or the government is undertaking right now. Yes, so I'll be happy to take any questions now, or I can talk about my research. If there are questions, please let me know.
Thank you so much, Isha. That was a really fascinating talk, and I think everyone will agree that that's given us a really comprehensive overview at a strategic level, I suppose, more than anything, about what is really taking place locally, but also the issue of the skills gap. Can I just ask any attendees if there are any questions? I can see one's popped in the box now. I'm just going to have a look. So it says, please could you provide some details about the employer survey from 2015, representative sample, and it just says thank you.
So employer skill survey is a survey which basically asks the employers within a given region or a given area, and it's exhaustive survey, and I think it includes a small level of firms or all the way to a higher level of firms with with a lot of employees. So these surveys are extensive questions about the type of skills that exist within the workforce that already works in their firms, and also the kind of skills that they want to hire from outside. So it's a survey that also addresses skill shortages or hard to fill vacancies, skills gap. It's actually freely available on the government website, and you can see the survey questions and the survey questions and the report along with some data as well. I hope that answers your question.
That's great, thank you. So another question would be, obviously you mentioned the skills gap has an impact on the firm, the worker, and the economy. In your experience, what do you feel is the biggest impact? Where is the biggest impact felt? Is it for the firm, the worker, or the economy?
I think it's all over. That is the thing with skill gap, and not only the firms are affected, but also the workers, which is not very widely understood, because people or researchers think it's most of the problem with skill gap is that firm loses its productivity, and as such they should do something about training their workforce or upskilling their workforce or just adjusting their demand. but it's a bigger picture, and it also affects the labor market participants. And that's why it's important to understand for everyone, including students or including prospective employees, that that going in the wrong direction of skills can hurt them through lost income, or let's say lost interest in their jobs, and as such decrease the retention rates in the company. So I think it would be equally balanced, but these are highlighted during recession periods, and you might not realize in a normal period when the economy is doing well that there's how skill gaps is impacting personally to a firm or to a worker. But during lower spells in the economy, this can be seen, and it has been seen historically.
Wonderful. Thank you, Isha. I think we've got time for just a couple more questions. Did you notice any trends in the models in terms of skills gap with the changes to commissioning around the apprenticeship scheme? Sorry for the background noise. So that question again was, have you noticed any changes in trends with the skills gap now that the apprenticeship commissioning model has changed?
It's regarding the apprenticeship. I assume you're talking about apprenticeship levi. It's
Yes.
It's very
and also the grants available for smaller employers
yes.
through the apprenticeship levy.
The thing is that apprenticeship levi is quite new, and there is not really any data to study that. But given that the firms would be required to hold budgets for training purposes, we hope to see a rise in soft skills of employees, and also employment in numbers. But it's still too early to comment, as there's a lack of data, and this is something which I wanted to look, but we have to wait for some data to be available, as I think it was just started early this year, the apprenticeship levi. And also in Essex, this apprenticeship levi is mostly relevant for bigger institutions as of now, and it will, I think, in future try to involve smaller employers as well. But as of Essex, I do not have the number in mind, but the percentage of bigger employers is not that large. So we are yet to see how it's going to impact skills gap and how it's going to address it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Isha. We have time for one more question. So if anybody would like to post a question in, this will be your final opportunity, and I'll pick one at random. Okay, so through your research with the local council, which council intervention have you found to have the biggest impact on bridging the skills gap?
So in this Essex region, there's a board, as I mentioned, there's a board called Essex Skills Board, and it's a set of academic institutions and biggest employers in the region working together to address this. And I think this is the biggest measure that has been taken in the region to actually address the skills gap and how it impacts the economy. Because as I said, if we do not acknowledge that there's a presence of skills gap and just believe on the numbers, employment numbers going down, there'll be nothing done about it. But having this kind of board and publishing these kind of reports that are being published, which not only inform the firm but also also anybody, any student or any prospective employee, I think this is one of the biggest step that has been taken to address it. And this has definitely helped in increasing or providing some college facilities or upgrading some equipment. And there's a detailed information about this on their website. And I think it has a large impact on changing the skills landscape in the region.
That's perfect. Well, thank you ever so much for your time. That's all the questions we've got time for today. I think everyone will agree that was a really informative and engaging presentation. The slides will be available on our website soon, and so if anybody would like a copy, please do visit the BLG website, and we can send round a link afterwards. So thanks again, Isha.
Thank you.
Finally, I just wanted to take this opportunity to encourage everybody to sign up to our conference, which is Bringing Data to Life for Policy and Practice. We have a selected number of free tickets to this prestigious annual conference taking place on the 27th and 28th of November at the Wellcome Collection in London, a fantastic venue. We would really like to invite all those attendees on the call today to come along to the event. You can register for a ticket on Eventbrite. I've included the link here on the slide, and we can send that round afterwards. If you've got any questions about the day, please do give me a call or send me an email, and I'm more than happy to pick that up. We'll be showcasing some really groundbreaking research in the area of data and how it's influencing policy and practice across the private and public sector. So we hope to see you there. Thanks again, Isha, for your time today, and thank you again, everybody,
Thank you.
for joining us for today's discussion. Thank you.